Welcome back, 7:10 in the morning. It is the SHOPO Hour. We do have the brothers in studio. Brother Nick, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, thanks.
God, just the voice. Ooh. We talk off the air, and I say, hey, Brother Nick, how you doing? I'm doing great. And then we get on there. How you doing, Rick? Good to see you. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Awesome. Brother Steve, how are you?
Same for me, Rick. Great to see you. Always happy and grateful to be here with you and your listeners, as always, bro.
Thank you very much, brother. Brother Mark?
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yeah.
It's good to see Steve again. We missed him last week, but I hope that Playgirl shoot went well, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for joining us on the SHOPO Hour. We'll see you next week. No, just... Nick's over here going like, how do I get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Anyways.
I have two, actually. Two, yeah.
Yeah, just to have enough.
Nick's always gracious. He always asks for some advanced copies. I think it's our friendship, but I don't know.
Steve autographs them for free as well.
That's right. And he doesn't even use a pen. It's amazing how that happens. You know, I was on the website, and I noticed, of course, that you post the SHOPO Hour on the SHOPO website. And I was looking through, and you're very diligent in posting, and then the cumulative number of views, great reach. Do you suppose that's primarily members that are downloading and sharing the podcast?
You know, Rick, that's a thank you for acknowledging that. And again, we appreciate this platform. We love coming together with you. We do a couple things to keep the members informed. We do a direct email to our members with the show attached to it. Mm-hmm. And then we figured that if anybody wants to come find out more about what we do and how we do it, that they can come in the non-member area of our website and see kind of what we're doing in the media, SHOPO in the news, and then it circles back to you. So I don't know how our media team kind of keeps track, if those views are from people that specifically come to the website, or if it's a combination of what our members are looking at when we do the direct email. They can also see it on their end as well, but we just trying to keep people informed, whether it's the community, whether it's our members, all good stuff.
It's good. Very nice. I appreciate it. Some have close to 200 views.
I do know
on an episode.
I do know, Rick, that a lot of our members actually go to your iHeartRadio page, and they actually listen to it right from your organization.
Great.
Actually.
Yeah. Excellent. And again, many thanks for being with us every week. I'm going to start things off here because, well, here we are. I'm going to start off with the word brazen. Brazen. Because whether it's news cycle or whether it's something we witness personally that takes place, it seems that brazen describes so much of what's happening that we're apprised of. I'll start with a story about a stabbing outside Walmart Kamoku bus stop. Attempted robbery ending with a knife plunged into a team member of Walmart. No apparent reason, but that was about as brazen as you get. And then there are other stories, and I don't mean to have this compilation, but there's video surveillance of a small shopping center in Eva. And these boys just walking up, kicking the crap out of the building, out of the door, they gain entry, they're just walking out, this, that, and the other. And then the stories, of course, that we have in downtown. There's a big brawl, 5 injured, Alamoana Park. I had a brawl about 3 blocks away from where I live, downtown, just out and about and people scrapping. And it just, the sense is people just don't care. Criminals and those who do harm to others. And it's as if it's more of a wild, wild west feeling than ever before. So I'm just, from a layperson, just a guy, dudes, I got to ask you, man, is the temperature rising, and is there ever going to be a mitigation of what we're seeing?
I think you could sum it up, and we've been talking about on this show probably ever since we started. There's no accountability, right? Even if these guys get caught, and let's say the prosecutor charges them, they're probably going to get released by the judges. or the prosecutors demand so much that the case just gets released pending investigation, and we see what happens later. But the bottom line is no accountability for these people. They're not going to jail for it. They're not being held for their responsibility for what they're doing out in the public.
So what's the methodology? Because the other side of it is that we're being told, well, crime is down. No, we're safer. We're the safest tourist destination in the world. Everything's fine. Okay, we have some incidents like we do in a major metropolitan area. And I beg to differ. I don't know how the stats are. Stats are stats. You can make them sing however you want them to. The reality is walking down the street, guys, that Keomoku stabbing is a block away from where close family lives. And I'm telling you, it's tough. Nick, thoughts?
I think that smash and grabs have definitely picked up in propensity in the last couple of years. Their notoriety has really picked up, especially with surveillance video. You're seeing examples more and more out there. As far as Walmart Keimoku goes, I think we all know that area has classically been a hotbed for activity for years and years and years. If you go back in history, you'll see that there's actually quite a few crimes of notoriety that happen down there. And I think it has to do with the combination of the infrastructure. You have all-night restaurants down there. You have apartment buildings, Ala Moana Shopping Center, Walmart, Sam's Club, and then, of course, Ala Moana Shopping Center. That has everything in it as well. Excuse me, I said that twice. But there's always activity down there 24/7, and anybody who works down there in the department knows that it's also a hotbed for homeless activity. So with all of those combinations in play, inevitably bad things are going to happen. I do think that it's difficult for the public out there to accept the excuse that statistically crime is down. I think we can all look at that and kind of raise our eyebrows and go, really? Are you sure about that? And I don't want to second guess Arthur Logan and his administration with their statistics, but at the same time, when you have a chief of police saying, oh, no, it's actually pretty good, but then you actually have all this stuff coming out and saying, oh, hold on a second now, it's actually pretty bad. It's hard to get a middle ground on it. That's my feeling about that. But I think we can all say that regardless of the argument, the public has had enough. And I think that it's time to hold people accountable as well.
I agree. And by the way, not casting aspersion, I'm just curious to try and reconcile two clearly opposing views, statistics and sense of reality of what we experience. One could say, well, statistics, their numbers are quantifiable and verifiable, and here they are. And then the other is that how can you correlate emotions or feelings and use that in any justifiable way to base your decisions on moving forward. I get it. It's a two-edged sword. But I will say one thing. Saying that the public is done, that we've had it, I don't think so. Yeah. The public is quiet. Take a look at this election year. There's virtually no challenges to the status quo at all. And I'll cite one thing, and God bless the victim. Acid attack. Ala Moana, innocent woman who teaches kids, attacked by this miscreant piece of work. Public reaction? What's it going to take for us, the citizens, to demand and quit just keeping the same people running stuff? See?
So, passionate conversations. So, a couple things. We can come together as a community and, believe it or not, get things right. And I'll give you an example. Remember when that poor girl got killed in the crosswalk on Kapiolani? I can't remember her name, but she passed away. Mm-hmm. There was a bill that successfully passed, and I'm so grateful for that, where if you are arrested 2 times for driving without a license, the 3rd time is a felony.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That was people coming together. Now, again, there could be some nuances with that, but we can come together and put together legislation that can hold people accountable, right? So there is the point of that. People might expect me to say this because I work for the Honolulu Police Department, but the Honolulu Police Department has really talented cops that care. Whether it's the patrol officers that wear the uniform, the plainclothes cops, or the detectives, HPD does a pretty good job arresting people, finding suspects, arresting them, and then turning them over to the criminal justice system in a bigger capacity. Police make the arrest. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. The prosecutor's office steps in and decides if they want to charge the individual and with what offense. The individual then gets their day in court, and then the judges get involved. And if you let me, Rick, I want to share a couple things. I would say on this panel, Mark is probably the most vocal about the judges and the roles they play within the community. But I was talking to a couple really solid cops recently, and they were sharing with me some outcomes of certain cases, or not outcomes, I should say, but people got arrested on suspicion of certain crimes, and then they were given a bail. And we've talked about that on the show a couple of times before. And I actually have some verifiable, open to the public decisions that judges made on bail amounts. Will you let me give you a couple of examples? We have time? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say someone's smoking meth, ice, right? It's a PDD 3. It's a felony. Back in the day, and maybe Mark could attest to this when he was the lieutenant.
Just a moment before you continue, just
Sure.
very quick, because it's ruminating in my mind.
Yep.
I agree with you in citing that one particular case and story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But my fervent call for this public, for the people of this city and county specifically, to get off their asses and make sure that when stories like we've been sharing don't go unchecked, instead of hiding behind the visage that everything's going to be okay because somebody in a political office says everything's going to be okay, that's not good enough. We talk about economics, affordable housing, home, blah, blah, all these issues. There's nothing more important than being safe. Mm-hmm. Nothing more important than when my daughter is walking down Keamoku, because that's where good friend of hers lives, and she's walking down the street, and I got to check in to make sure she's okay, that she takes her scooter to go to work across the street from HPD, and I'm still concerned. Bro, I get it, but this whole thing with public safety and not being safe, forget about it. It's in no way a dismissal or marginalization of the great work that our men and women do in uniform at all. But we got to change our attitude, our priorities, and we got to have those demands. And if they're not met, we're the accountability. And I swear, after 31 years of doing this, it still pisses me off.
Rick, I think
so.
Yeah, no, I believe that a lot of people in this community feel the same way you do. I think they're as passionate about it. I think it's because they care. They've been here a long time and they see that things are different. And maybe we're not in a place where we need to be. So I empathize with your passion. And I'll tell you what, that's why the cops get up every day and do the job they do.
Understand.
But I'm glad you take this platform, because I agree with you. I think this community, for whatever reason, they don't like to call people out. They don't want to I don't want to say stir the pot, but they don't sometimes want to be vocal, right? They don't want to be vocal when they need to be vocal. And I'm sorry, but sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's important.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, because this is, love to hear this information. Again, if you're just joining the SHOPO Hour, brothers in studio. Steve, we've lamented for ages about the role of our jurisprudence, and Steve's about to share with us public record examples of exactly what's happening during this process. Brother?
Yeah. I think to give a little bit of context, and I think Mark could support me, because in his career, he was the desk lieutenant. So when cops brought people in, Mark would get them at the cell block. Let me get my thoughts organized. Back in the day, we have something called high bail. High bail in this community was anything over 10K. Now, you can have an opinion of whether or not 10K is really considered high bail, but when you had a drug case like a PDD3, a felony for, let's say, crystal meth, ice, someone would usually get an 11K bail. That's kind of how it was, right? You'd get an 11K bail, and then if you come up with 10% of that amount, you get out. Well, there's a couple of cases recently that I wanted to share with you and the listeners. And again, this is just enlightening the listeners so they can have a clear understanding of what's happening in their community.
Right.
Okay. So there was a case where a guy got arrested for PDD3, which is a C felony, went in front of Judge Christine Yoo, and got a 5K bail. Not 11, 5K. So that individual had to come up with 10% of that. Another case that some of the cops were sharing with me, another PDD3 case, C felony. The suspect offender went in front of Judge S. Park. I don't have the name, HOAPILLI. So in front of her courtroom, okay? Judges have a lot of authority. They have a lot of power. That was $1,000. $1,000.
$1,000.
Right. And again, and Mark can jump in here.
10%.
These used to be 11K. So, and again, people have opinions about bail reform and whether bail should be used or not. But the point being is 11K was the standard. Now we're getting 5. Now we're getting 1,000. And Mark, you can jump in. I have a couple more examples.
It's a joke what these judges were doing. And I saw this near the end of my career when I was leaving. They would, for Class C felony drug cases, they were setting bail at $1,000. These judges, and it's like, and I thought it was a typo. I would go to the books officer at the desk and say, "Hey, we missing some digits here?" They go, No, the judge won't give us more, because as a detective, right, you investigate your case, you have enough evidence, you're going to charge the person. For all felonies, you call a judge for bail. Right, and then you give the judge the parameters of the case, and then you ask for your bail. And it's up to the judge to set the bail for felony cases, right? And a lot of the judges, even when I was a detective, I would ask for, a certain bail, and no, too much money. What world are you living in? I don't know what world these judges are living in. So, and then Steve touched on something about high bail. Right, we just don't set high bail for randomly. You have to meet a certain criteria to do high bail, whether it be you have multiple priors or you don't have a local address, we can't get a hold of you, we can't find you later, right? But there's multiple, crimes against elderly and stuff like that, crimes against tourists. But there's a threshold you need to meet to have a high bail. But these judges are just bypassing this stuff. They don't care. So, and they've been doing it for years and years and years. And like you said, Rick, you hit it right on the head. When is the public going to wake up and get pissed off at all this stuff? But it's just like everybody's head is in the sand in this place. This public got to wake up and start getting these people out and put normal people in the legislature that appoints these judges. It's ridiculous.
Brother Nick, would you mind?
Sure. So I have had to charge felony cases in the traffic division. So I do have experience with it. I'm up to date with how it works. And when you do have an in custody suspect and you're preparing your case for immediate charging, there's a whole list of criteria that you have to hit within 48 hours in order to make it. But asking for bail is one of the very first steps that you have to do, and there's always a preliminary set of criteria based on what type of crime you're dealing with and whether or not there's any other associated crimes that are related to it. And usually within a division, you'll have kind of a rough guideline to work with of how much you'd ask for. And then based on any other circumstances, such as a heinous crime, a crime of notoriety, certain immediate charging criteria, which again are kind of loose rules, you may ask for an increase in that bail. But it's always a little nerve-wracking to call a judge and explain the circumstances of your case and then say, this is the bail amount that I am requesting from you. When detectives do that, they're not looking for a punitive action, and I want to make it clear. This is not meant to be a penalty per se against the person, because everybody is entitled to bail. We understand that. Okay, that's a right in this country. But at the same time, if you rack up enough problems in this situation, you're just going to hit certain thresholds, and that's just going to be the way it is. All right. And I think we can all agree on that. That's fair. But at the same time, you may have what you think is a very good case, very compelling as far as bail goes, and you do your conferral over the phone and you say, I'm asking for X amount of money. And just like Major and Steve said, you'll have a judge say, no, I'm not going to give you that. You'll get this. And when the judge gives you that number, you're pretty much stuck. And that's just the way it goes. And then you have to go back to the prosecutor and say, yes, I did request bail, and this is the amount. And to be honest with you, to the prosecutor's credit, sometimes you'll get a prosecutor who said, really? That's all the judge would give you? Because even the prosecutors are looking at your case and going, whoa, that's really not a whole lot of money given what we're looking at right here.
Yeah. Steve?
So how's this? Let's just throw something out here. What do you think the bail would be for an individual that would have had 24 prior arrests, including 2 assault charges, and this particular individual that I'm highlighting assaulted a 71-year-old security guard and was arrested for assault second, which is a C felony. So he commits a felony assault. He's got 24 priors, and 2 of those priors were for assault. What do you think a bail amount would be for this individual?
Because it's an elevated crime, because Kapuna.
A lot of working parts here.
So
a lot of working parts here. Well, I'll tell you what. If you went to Judge Erica Ireland, 15K. 15K. Right. So
Okay.
10% of that. So for $1,500,
you're
that
out.
takes care of that. I think the takeaway, Rick, from here is there are many parts to keeping a community safe, like you're talking about. Everybody has a role. The police departments, the prosecutor's office. But then we have to circle back to the courts. Okay? How important. Why am I bringing this up? Because it highlights how important the judge's role is in the criminal justice system, and it's acknowledging how much power and authority they have. Did you hear what Nick just said? Mm-hmm. Nick said, Officer Nick, I know what you want, but this is how it's going to be, and that's the way it is. Judges have the final say. They're getting tremendous amounts of power and authority. So what's the takeaway? And I got another example, Rick, if you let me. We need to come together and make sure as a community we're getting the right judges. But in this community, judges aren't elected. They're appointed by political leaders, as you know. So the takeaway, I think, from this talk story is judges play a key role in public safety. If you're concerned about your kids' well-being and where they're walking and what's going on, you can't just look at the PD. You can't just look at the prosecutor's office. We need to see who's wearing the black robes and what are they doing in their courtroom.
Final example.
Okay. Sex assault first, robbery second. This case was highlighted in the news. It was over in Kahala.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The individual that was taken into custody has previously been arrested for sex 4 and sex 3rd and indecent exposure. So this he's got issues. Indecent exposure, sex 3rd, sex 4, previous arrests. This guy gets arrested for sex assault first and robbery second. The case is marked confidential, so I don't know who the judge is, but I can share with you the bail on that, $50K.
Wow.
Now, assault
with that record and
sex assault first. Here's my take. Sex assault first is an A felony. It's one of the most egregious criminal acts you can do. Okay, robbery second. That means that you threatened force or used force and stole from someone. These are very personal crimes to the victim. You follow me?
Amen.
$50K. So $5,000? Now, again, innocent till proven guilty. Everybody gets their days in court, but this comes back to public safety. Is this the type of guy we want out and about until he gets his day in court? Like Nick highlighted, you, through your actions, meet a certain charging criteria, right? Again, sex first, robbery second, previous sex assault arrests, indecent exposure. This guy's a problem. $50K or $5,000? How's this? I think the judges can do better. I think the community deserves it. And I think if you increase the bail, criminals would be less brazen. So that's how this all circles back, Rick.
It's the SHOPO Hour on News Radio 830 KHVH. And if you like to continue with us, please do. All the way to the top of this hour. We're well on our way. It's already... Once again, welcome back to the SHOPO Hour. It is, once again, till 8 o'clock this morning. 7:42 right now. Time for your calls if you want to jump on in at 521-8383. And hope you do. Brother Nick, Brother Steve, Brother Mark in studio with us today. It is a talk story, but it has focus and now quantification that the issues that Mark usually comments on, and we nod our heads together, is that this is part of our judicial system that has some latitude in decision making, but can we get some better decision making is all I can really pick up on. So if that's the case, appointed individuals, how do you recommend the public get involved? What would be the best? And by the way, could you also, if can, delineate courts, district court, circuit court? We get into appellate, we get into family, you get into even the Supreme Court. The cases that we discuss mostly is at circuit or district primarily. Do we know the differentiation in the local? Because that will help us understand who's on the bench of which courts are relevant.
Most of the cases we're talking about are definitely circuit court type cases. Okay. That's where these are the venue that these are being held in. And of course, we know that all judges in the state are appointed, not elected. So with that said, I think it begs the question, a personal point of view, do we need to look at this? Do we need to reanalyze it and say to ourselves, well, are we comfortable with letting our elected officials just simply make decisions about who they want to be in these positions, or do we actually want to have a say in it because we feel that our judges are inadequate and not doing their jobs properly and need to be held more accountable to public opinion?
Good point. Good point. Mark?
So let me back up to this bail again. So we talked about high bail, right? There's also just cash bail, but I highly doubt that the judges are giving that nowadays. But, we used to have just cash bail, and they would approve it. But even with the high bail and even the cash bail, we have what we call a high bail form. In other words, there's got to be a justification for this high bail, and it's a form that we type out and we ask for and we show the justification for it. So again, we're not just randomly setting high bail because we don't like the guy. You know what I mean? So there's justification for it for all those no bail people out there, that want to let people go. So one thing the public needs to put pressure on these judges. We really do. And then whether it be the mayor or the prosecutor or the chief of police, I don't know who it would be. But to me, yes, I know you got to get along with everybody, but enough already. Let's start putting pressure on these people. Start putting pressure on the judiciary. I want to give you another example. Steve gave you some examples. When I first came in the department, like 95 years ago, right?
103.
Yeah. So, and it blew my mind. So we had the judges would come down to the receiving desk on the weekends to see if they could release, right? To help us with the overcrowding down there. And this guy would go in front of the judge before we would walk him in front of the judge. They don't do that now. So this guy had 15 prior contempts, and he was in there for assault or a petty misdemeanor or something like that. So contempts are you didn't show up to court. Mm-hmm. the judge released him. But prior to her releasing him, she says, I'm going to release you. Do you promise to show up to this court date? And he's, oh, yeah. Okay. And I'm saying to myself, what world does this person live in? So this is what we're dealing with. These judges are just, they got to get back to reality. They really do. Okay. So, and let me explain the bail. So, misdemeanors and below, the receiving desk lieutenant sets the bail, right? But we do have a bail criteria, again, that if it's a first-timer, the bail is going to, of course, be lower. But if it's a multiple-timer, we could set the bail a little high, right? And there's a max we could go. We can't go crazy, right? And those bails, they'll usually go to district court, right? Again, felonies or above misdemeanors, which are felonies and above, the judge sets the bail. Detective does their investigation, and the judge says, if the detective does not set the bail, they request the bail, and then the judge will ultimately okay whatever it is, right? And then we'll go over to the prosecutor. Prosecutor accepts the case. We use that bail along with the high bail form if we do high bail. So that's how it's structured. And then those felony cases will usually be seen at circuit court.
So when you say prosecutor will accept a case, you've already done the due diligence. You've made the good arrest. And so the prosecutor, they review your docket, they review the report, and then they decide whether it's good enough to move forward or not.
Yes.
So, hello, nurse. I mean, having that discretion when there has been an investigation and solid conclusion, at least from the evidence, and advancing it, for whatever reason, a prosecutor can say, you know what? I don't think so.
Oh, it happens a lot.
Dear Lord.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know how it is now, so I don't want to go, talk how Steve Alm's running his thing there. But years ago when I was talking to a prosecutor, they basically said, if we can't 100% win the case, we're not going to take it. We have to 100% know we're going to win the case. So we're not taking it, which I don't agree with that.
Is that a reflection of the prosecutor in office? Because prosecutor is an elected.
Yeah, so I don't know how that goes.
Wow.
But to me, you got to go for it. You can't.
So I got another breaking in, but I'm going to kind of echo what Steve said to a certain degree, and that is, I'm going to hold that story for just a second. Hold on. I want to tease for people to come back. Welcome back. It is 7:53. I want to just one thing, and that is about prosecutors, etc. Calling attention to what the machinations are of that particular office can be a little bit difficult. I'm not stating it's a non-transparent organization, but there's not many of us that will delve into trying to learn more about process. And I wanted to thank the three of you for helping us, because I think today's been very useful in process, to where we're trying to figure out how in the world do we get guys with rap sheets. Rap sheets, thank you. And we have people that offend, and are still in our midst. Understanding what's taking place from the front lines to where the disposition is determined, to where the adjudication takes place, and then the fourth wheel that we need to always bring up, Department of Public Safety, are they prepared to house, incarcerate, etc.? And when there's a four-legged stool, and if two legs of that stool aren't as good as the others, you're going to fall on your keister. And I'm talking to you looking down from sitting on my keister, because it ain't happening. Sorry. And thank you for citing those particular stories. And again, you mentioned it's public knowledge. We in the public need to have more knowledge. We're at 7:54. Turn it back over. Mark, some thoughts.
Well, there's a lot of, we're hammering the prosecutor's office every so often, and deservingly so, but there is they have a lot to deal with also, right? So Think about it. They're dealing with a liberal system. They're dealing with these judges that are just throwing stuff out left and right or giving them parameters. And to me, I always said, this judicial system is a defense attorney's dream.
Gosh, you just read my mind. From the break. Yeah.
I guess they're just dealing with what they're dealt with. So,
okay. Brother Steve.
So when it comes to keeping the community safe, that was kind of where you started us off. There's the police department, there's the prosecutor's office, and there's the courts. All three have tremendous responsibilities, but we really have to have a court system that is functioning properly and reflects not only the law, but what the people are looking for. You had asked us before the last break, what advice could we give, right? Mm-hmm. Well, as Nick pointed out, judges are not elected, but I liked what he was talking about. Maybe, I don't know how it gets changed, but I think judges should be elected. So what's the takeaway? And Mark's pontificated about this many times. You have to participate in the election process. You have to educate yourself about candidates. You have to ask the candidates tough questions, because ultimately they're going to be picking our judges, right? So that's how that comes full circle 360. The other thing I wanted to share with you, Rick, is that young girl that lost her life in the crossroad in Capilani, Sarah Yara. I remember the signs, Justice for Sarah. I didn't want to forget to mention her name. And again, her passing, and I don't know what the bill was, but again, you have 2 DWAL convictions. Your third one's going to be a felony. So it adds more teeth. It adds more teeth.
Yeah.
So,
and I appreciate that. Yeah. But then again, how is it able to languish for so very long until a girl lost her life?
Valid point. 100% correct.
And so I don't want to see that happen with further sex assaults, things of that nature, until, again, the acid attack was just infuriating.
He's mentally fit.
Yes,
that
he
guy,
is.
and I'm glad he is.
Yes.
Because I felt very passionate about that, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes we're just too reactive.
Yeah.
We're too reactive. You're not wrong, Rick. Everything you're saying is accurate, and sometimes we are reactive rather than proactive. And in that case, regarding DWAL, you're exactly correct. And with other things.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Brother Steve. I mean, you look like Steve.
Wow. No, he's never coming back.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say, look, you dress like Steve. That's why I got confused.
Yeah, that blouse looks fabulous on you, Nick.
Thank you.
Great color.
Thank you.
Great,
yeah,
and the heels, outstanding.
Brings out my eyes. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Are those? Could you take those fishnet stockings off the? Yeah. Brother Nick
took a turn.
Yeah. So I just want to make it a point again. A lot of national discussion about bail and bail reform. Bail is not a penalty. When we go and we ask for bail, we always ask for something that's very appropriate based on what we're looking at. The charges that we're trying to get through and what the person has done in relation to that. So for anybody to say, I think a judge's bail is appropriate for that, what you're bringing up, or it should be lower, I would say, question that. I'm not too sure that's the answer you want to give. And then secondly, there's one other aspect to this, which is a lot of additional discussion. There's not just arrest, bail, prosecution. All right, there's also penalty. And when it comes to the penalty phase of things, I think that should be something that maybe one day we have a discussion about as well. Because from my point of view, somebody who has a third DWAL arrest should have already been doing time for the first 2, all right? And should have had their license completely revoked infinitely and should not be on the road. And there should be additional measures in place to make sure that if that person gets picked up for a third time, that it's way beyond.
I want to thank all 3 of you for today. Brother Nick, Brother Steve, Brother Mark, and could not leave without saying, in the house is Brother John Criccio, who has been on this program in the past, but is in town, which means, gentlemen, could you elevate the watches and the personnel on patrol, because John's in the house.
Oh, definitely.
And there we go. Jess, we'll see you next week.
Okay, have a good week.